rotating, strafing, and surging. This is what the Oculus Quest looks like. It just has a sticker on the front of it. So this one allows more movement. With this one, you can actually step forward, you can elevate up and down, and you can step sideways. This allows for more movement for gaming, training purposes, and education. Now, there's plenty of other headsets that I didn't mention that are on the market as well. They're the tethered headsets, PlayStation VR, and the Rift are some of them. And then there's also non-tethered VR headsets, and the Oculus Quest and the HTC Vive. Now, the difference between the two is that the tethered headsets are wired to a powerful computer. Non-tethered headsets are not wired, so they're wireless, and you can just move around within that space that you're allowed to move in with the non-tethered headsets. Also, keep in mind there are several that VR can be viewed in several ways, and then we're just gonna focus on the two ways that they can be viewed. That's immersive, when a person puts on a VR headset and they dive right into that 3D world, that 360 world. And there's non-immersive, when a person can watch 360 videos on a digital device, like their cell phone, tablet, or even a desktop, laptop, or their Chromebook. So that's watching a 360 video. There's tons of them on YouTube. That's like dragging the mouse and seeing the surroundings of that 360 video. Now today, VR is being used for several different trainings, such as for college students to work on their soft skills in simulated job interviews or corporate presentations. It's also being used for mental health, to overcome phobias, or to work with young ones on the spectrum. It's being used in sports leagues like the NFL and the NBA to train athletes, surgeons in operating rooms, Walmart with employees for Black Fridays. It's all made to put people in these situations so that they can make better decisions when they're put in real life scenarios. VR offers fully immersive experience and environments for students. We can all agree that we can easily lose students when they're not interested, when they're easily bored, disengaged, and they're having a tough time trying to understand the information. Now, when students are surrounded and they're part of their learning experience, they become excited and motivated to understand what's being taught. This requires less cognition for students. So the cognitive load is a lot less once students start becoming engaged because they're interested, they want to know more about what's being taught to them. Now, imagine allowing a student to fully dive into the nervous system and be surrounded by the inside of a human ear. And now they're seeing how neurons are simulated for sound, or the inside of a human eye, and see how neurons are simulated for light. The students will be allowed to travel through what seems like what seems like fiber optics to experience how impulses are sent and received. So it's not only explaining them, but now students are like stepping into this world and actually seeing how everything is moving around. And they're part of the experience now. They're not just listening to it. Or even for students to take a virtual, non-immersive field trip and travel to unfamiliar places. When educators use images, it helps students solidify ideas. Authors of the article, Use of VR Tools in the Reading Language Arts Classroom, explain how teachers also agree and understand that prior knowledge for students about a topic impacts their understanding of the text that they read. For example, if a student has been to New York and they start reading about New York, they can easily comprehend the information that they're learning or the text that they're reading about. As opposed to a student who has never been to New York, they're gonna have a tougher time trying to understand the information that they're receiving. A student that's interested, we can even have students that are interested in astrology, and they could immerse themselves into the solar system and start experimenting with the stars that are inside of the galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. Students have, so I'm sorry, give me a second. Studies have shown that VR allows for students to retain complex information better than they will in the traditional classroom settings. Dr. Kinney, from the CEO of Children's Health System, reported that medical students only have a 20% retention in the traditional classroom settings, meaning that they only remember 20% of the lesson that was given after the first week. Now with VR, the same students, the same medical students, were able to retain 80% of the information after 1 year. So that's a 400% increase, right? So now students can easily absorb that information, understand that information, and probably perform better in classrooms. Though I haven't gotten into VR gaming, I am, however, I have, however, gotten into gaming tournaments with a few of my students. I believe I read somewhere that said 95% of teenagers and middle school and high school students play video games, and it's about 80% for females, 95% for males. Some of the more popular games that I've played with students are Fortnite, Call of Duty, and NBA 2K. 1 week in a month for an hour or two can go a long way with students. Keep in mind that they're in their element, they're in their zone. So don't judge them when they start trash talking about your mom when you when you take them out in a Call of Duty game or you dunk on them in an NBA 2K game. It's a great way to build rapport with students, make some connections with students, but then bring them back into the classroom and teach them ways on how to engage with the technology that they're using at home or even in the classroom. I advocate for more schools to have esports team and to allow students to host tournaments. This is a way for to create inclusiveness for students who often feel like they have solitary lives. A lot of students who are into technology, who are into video games, feel that they're in their own world. A lot of them spend time by themselves in their own bedrooms playing. And what usually is a lot of us who are into technology are introverts. So we might feel like we're alone in this world. This kind of brings people together. Esports bring people from all over, whether it's the athlete, whether it's the nerdy kid in the back. It's a way to bring inclusiveness and connect people. Social connections are a great way to improve relationships and healthy decision making. All right, not to mention that all the skills that students will be learning while playing on esports teams, such as teamwork, social skills, strategic thinking and planning, managing success and failure, time management, and pro-social values. The most exciting part about esports is the broad technology ecosystem. Students start to develop an interest in STEAM, that's science, technology, engineering, and arts and math. And remember, not every student is going to bank as a player. So we have to explore all these different careers, whether that's marketing, finance, designing and development, or anything that's computer related. In 2017, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics stated that computer-related occupations are the largest projected category of new jobs from 2014 to 2024. So now more than ever, we need diversity. We also need diversity in esports. We need more representation of Black, Indigenous, and people of color and the LGBTQ communities in these spaces, whether they're players or creating the games. And then speaking of creating games, I'd like to introduce you all to CoSpaces EDU. This is a neat program that allows students to design 3D elements and 3D worlds. Then they can bring everything to life inside that space with physics and entry-level coding that's known as code blocks. So yes, the students do learn physics while they're creating their VR spaces and the VR worlds. But this is all to make it seem more realistic. And it's exciting. They dab around with different subjects, and it's not just technology, it's not just something that they play around with. So students can grow with this program as well. As they develop their designing skills, they can also try out JavaScript, which is a more advanced form of coding. So what's cool about this program is that after they create their 3D worlds, they can share with other students, and they can actually put on a VR headset and immerse themselves in this 3D world that they just created. Another thing that they can also do is that they can play with it like as if it was a mobile game, right? And they could experience this through non-immersive VR, or they could just simply bring it up into their own space, right? They could bring it into their space with their friends and show it to them through AR or use it as an AR presentation. So these are very similar steps that are being taken when when video games are being designed on bigger platforms, such as Unity and Unreal Engine, that are used, like I said, to create mobile games. They use to create VR and console games. So their design are shared within the classroom. They could just share with their peers. They could share that home with their family or any function that they choose. And I'm gonna show you real quick. I'm just sharing my screen so I can show you what that looks like. Give me 1 sec. I just gotta close my email. So I'll show you what CodeSpaces look like. This is the actual CodeSpace program. Again, is a very simple program where students are using 3D elements. They can actually create their own 3D elements and bring everything to life with the most basic coding called code blocks. And it's very similar to Roblox, where it's just blocks that are set, put together, and you bring all this stuff to life. Characters start moving around, different objects start moving around to bring this stuff, to make it seem more realistic. So I'll just show you. One of my favorite examples is this coronavirus one. And these are all projects. You can always go on to CodeSpaces and try out the trial version, or you can email me and I'll send you a code so you can have access to it for about 30 days and play around with this for a whole month and get to experience what this program's all about. So this is my favorite design. These designs are all created by students. So this is a way to encourage other students. You can definitely create something similar to this. And like I tell them, if they can't create something similar, they can definitely create something better than what they see on here. So what's cool about this is that you can see that it's fully, this is non-immersive. So I'm moving this around with my mouse pad, my trackpad, and I can spin it around in a circle. And this click button, what it does is that it provides you with some information. Provide you with some information about the coronavirus, right? And what's cool about it is that it can be set up in scenes. You go to the next scene, and this scene just shows this little girl that got infected by the person on the bus, right? And it shows you how coronavirus works. You can see that she's infecting everyone else when their bubble turns red. So this is definitely a way to engage students, to have students interested in what they're learning. This is a real fun program to learn how to use. So let me just get out of here for 1 second. And CodeSpaces is set up with tons of resources. That's keyboard shortcuts that shows how to navigate in these 3D worlds. That's lesson plans if you're ever stuck and not sure how to bring this program into your classroom. And then they also have tons of ambassadors that are ready to assist you for any needs that you may have, right? I see CodeSpaces as an opportunity for students to celebrate their coaches and their identities, perhaps with a VR museum of the country where they come from, or 360 tours of their favorite park, beach from their favorite country. They can explore a zoo that has information and that's labeled with animals and multiple languages. They can showcase an extra chapter from their favorite book. And it can all be designed and shared all through CodeSpaces. And then there's also another program called the Merge Cube, right? A Merge Cube allows for holograms to be illuminated at the palm of a student's hands. The Merge Cube has 2 applications, right, that you can download onto your cell phone or onto your tablet. And I'll show you, this is what the Merge Cube actually looks like. It's just a cube. It's a little squishy, it's made out of foam. But there's also printed versions that you can copy and it works just the same. One of the applications for the Merge Cube is called the Object Viewer, which allows you to view all sorts of different objects at the palm of your hands. So once you bring up your cell phone, you view it through augmented reality, and what you see on your phone is the hologram. So it could be historical items, it could be anything related to anatomy or architectural. I mean, just this morning, I was looking at the development of a chicken, right, with my children. We was looking at it with the cube. We held a fertilized egg at the palm of our hands. Then we looked at the different stages of the chicken embryo. Then we looked at a chick, and then finally we looked at an adult chicken. So there are many different cards to keep students engaged with this program. And I'll show you what this looks like. So this is the egg right here. This is actually the cube that you see right here. And you see that I'm viewing it from my cell phone. This is why you have this look right here. It's not vertical. So you see the cube actually turns into this hologram, and that's the actual egg right there. Right? You can view it, you can change it around. You can see this is the 7-day embryo, this is a day 5 embryo. And you can play around with this stuff and bring it into your lesson. Right? This is day 14 of the chicken embryo. Again, this is all stuff that it's not designed it's not designed so that you can actually use this for your actual replace your lesson. It's actually designed so that way you could kind of like reinforce whatever students are learning inside of the classroom. And again, it makes it exciting, it makes it entertaining for students. Another application that you can play around with is called the Explorer. With this application, students interact with the hologram from a library of different cards. One of the popular ones is the frog dissection, which is really neat because you don't have to worry about the mess and the smell of having several frog carcasses laying around in the classroom. Students can hold up the frog, pin it down, pull up and separate all the organs. And then when they click on the organ, the Apple will label the organ for them. And they can start understanding how these organs work. So I'll show you how that one looks. So this is the actual frog right here. And you see that there's several different cards on here. And when I say cards, that just means that there's several different different programs, different information that students can interact with. So this is the actual frog right here. It just takes some time for it to load. You can move it around. You can actually move it closer to your face. Once I start pressing the pins, they turn green. You press the center pin, and you see that this actually opens. It's pretty neat. I find this to be like really exciting. You can separate the organs and actually move the cube closer to your face so you can actually see what these organs look like. And it's not just animals, they also have human anatomy. They have all sorts of different animals that you can learn from. So, like I said, there's tons of different cards, from learning about the use of force with Newton's law of motion, holding up Newton's cradle. Students can learn about the solar system and seeing all the different planets at the palm of their hands. The different categories consist of physical science, life science, engineering, math, and so much more. Then what's cool about it is that you can even go back onto CoSpaces and you can design your own simulation for the merge cube, right? So if a student wants to bring something that they learned in history or in science class that they cannot find that content in CoSpaces, or they can't find it in the cards from the merge cube, they can go back onto CoSpaces and actually design that themselves. And then if you cannot find content to add to your lesson, then you can actually create content, right? Now, some of you might look at me all crazy and say, I don't have time to learn how to code. I don't have time to learn how to create VR or AR content. Well, let me introduce you to YAO, right? YAO is an acronym for Your Own World. It's an application that allows any educator, tutor, anyone related to education to create their own content without having any coding skills. So after the content is created, it's placed into an arcade, which is actually a library full of content designed by other educators, right? Students have access to this content with AR and VR to continue learning, right? So I'll show you what that looks like. So this is YAO right here. This is actually the back end of it. Again, this is their logo that stands for Your Own World. And what you want to do is that you want to come in here, you press create game, and you see all the different environments on here, right? So you just say, for example, I decided I want to choose this environment. You can name it. Let's say this is a test, right? And this is all fully immersive now. Now, when a student puts on a headset, they're gonna actually feel like they're in this laboratory. Now, you can decide excuse me, what sort of game you want to design, whether it's multiple choice or matching. So let's say multiple choice, right? Put your question on here. What are the bones of the human leg? Right, so you put your question on here. We could probably put a picture of the human leg on here. Then you put all your answers right down here. So let's say you type in human, well, that's not how you spell leg, human leg, or just check leg. All right, so this is the human leg right here. But the human leg is probably made of the femur, if I spelled that right, right? Then you can add it right here, all right? Then you can add the other parts of the human legs. Unfortunately, that's the only human bone that I know on the leg, so I couldn't give you other answers to put on here. But what's cool about it is that once you create this task, you press done. You can keep editing, or you save it as a draft, and then you can share it to the arcade, right? The arcade is something that once the student puts on a headset, they're gonna actually feel that they're in an actual arcade. Some of us are young enough to remember what that experience feels like, to step into arcade and see what it feels like to play on a pinball machine, or even any game, Street Fighter, anything like that. But what this has is that it has the content that teachers created. And like I said, students put on this headset and they actually feel like they're in this laboratory taking this exam or learning whatever you put on this platform. What's also neat about this program is that if students don't have a headset, or there's no headsets available for them, they can use their mobile device, again, whether it's a tablet or it's a cell phone, and they could experiment and play around with this content through AR, through augmented reality. So they could play around with it at home, they could bring it into their classroom, in the rec center, any space that they feel comfortable learning this information, all right? So that's YAO. I recommend some of you guys take a look at this stuff.
Yeah, this is awesome. It is 10:35, so I just want to, if I can, interrupt you for a couple of seconds to ask a couple of questions that more translate to how we can apply. First of all, this is amazing. All of the tools are fantastic. How do you go about, I guess, actually getting other teachers to use this? Like, I mean, have you been working with history teachers and English teachers and science?
No, so a lot of these programs, so what's happening is a lot of these programs are still in beta mode. I just, and I'll be honest with you, just recently because of COVID, I've made a big pivot with Winner Circle, and it's dedicated to be more educational. Before it was just gonna be all esports. And now I'm slowly introducing all these different programs to different teachers and just trying to capture their response, to see what they think about it, see how they feel about it. And slowly what I want to do is gather a team of educators and introduce these programs to them, so that way they can bring it into the classroom and figure out different ways that they can apply it to their lessons.
Definitely. This is so, I mean, and then as a kind of aside from that, because I'm a parent and not a teacher, how are you working with young people independently who are not maybe part of your class, but
when at Winner Circle XR, we provide after school programs where students can learn designing and coding. What I want to do also is figure out ways so that I can train educators as well, so that way they have the information, they have the resources, so that way they can bring it into their classrooms. But as a parent, I just say keep an eye out for the different programs that are available through rec centers. There's tons of different organizations that I support. Steambox RI is one of them. There's Yes PVD is another one. These are all different programs that support XR and VR and all this immersive technology.
Excellent. Yes. And then Toonie wants to know, are you a member of Tech Collective?
Yes, I honestly, I am not a member of Tech Collective, embarrassingly so. I was looking at the membership. I just saw that there was a membership just recently, but I am gonna sign up today. I
Oh,
promise.
she will be very proud. They need you, actually, is the
Yeah.
real reason.
I mean, XR is not mainstream, so we have to kind of like meet students where they're at. A big issue in some of these classrooms is digital devices. Students always taking out their cell phones in classrooms. So why not meet students where they're at? This shows students how to use these devices responsibly, and show them how they can use these devices to excite them to learn and to continue learning and use AR with these devices. They say by 2023, there's going to be 2.4 billion AR compatible devices. So it's almost like every student in these classrooms will have a device that can be used for AR. So now, why not show them how they can advance their the academic outcomes with their cell phones in these classrooms?
That's amazing. I mean, because that was kind of one of my next thoughts was like, what's the hardware shortage and where are the gaps?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest gaps is the internet. I mean, we learned about that through COVID. Not every student has access to the internet. But every student does. I mean, I won't say every student, but most students do have the latest digital device. And if we can teach them how to use this stuff in a responsible way, and show them that they can use this to actually advance their academic outcomes, and find entertaining ways, unique ways, so that way they can stay engaged in their lessons. They could definitely use these devices for their benefit, for their use.
Definitely. All right. Does anybody else have any questions? I tried to get a good chunk of them out of the chat.
So I think that was pretty good. My only one is just overall kind of moving forward. So you kind of just use these technologies and you're trying to right now get with teachers to kind of maybe augment their lessons plans into sort of using AR technologies, because
Yeah.
VR, right, as we mentioned, like the headsets, that's really for more like 13-year-old plus, right, as the health requirement. So I think to your point, augmenting it, like AR is going to grow huge, especially with the younger generation. So now you're kind of just looking for that, right? How do we kind of use these tools that are in beta mode to create, augment lesson plans?
Yeah, how could we introduce this into the classroom? How could we introduce this to teachers? How could we plant that seed in students so that they're interested in coding, in designing, and creating their own video games, and not just want to becoming esports players?
Yeah, awesome.
And my biggest thing, I like to tell everyone, let's be innovative and let's
Yeah.
geek out, man. Let's make being a geek cool for these students, because that's one of the things that when they see this stuff, they're definitely gonna start geeking out over this.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah. I kind of want to end it on the let's be innovative and let's geek out.
Awesome.
So unless anybody else has any questions, thank you, Juan. Thank you so much for bringing this to us. And we are definitely going to spread the message as far and wide as we can. Is there anything else we can do to support Winter Circle XR as a community or as an organization?
I'd say go onto our website, visit us at www.winnercirclexr.com, sign up for the mailing list, follow us on our social media. Everything's all the same as Winner Circle XR. And support us any way we can. Reach out to us if you want to bring this into the classroom. Let's continue the conversation as to how XR would be the new medium. First we had radio, then TV, then the internet. Now we have virtual reality.
Yeah, it's exciting times.
Yes.
Definitely. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.